Yes. Hi, folks. This quarterly meeting started and our tradition in here to do the pledge of allegiance before we get started, so we'll do it. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I see some familiar faces and some new ones, so why don't we do some introductions just so we know who everybody is. Start over here.
My name is Casey Johnson. I live in Sandy River Plantation. Lived up here full time, a little over 4 years. Only ended up here for probably 20 plus years.
Yep.
Good.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Mark Beauregard, Rangeley resident.
Mark Beauregard.
Donna Larson Kane. I was a consultant that helped the town put together, update the comprehensive plan.
Wonderful.
I'm Joe Roach, I'm the Rangeley town manager. Welcome everybody to Rangeley, good to see you.
Linda Dexter, and I live in Dallas Plantation.
David Miller, Spirit Rangeley.
I need to introduce that. President of Rangeley and the esteemed secretary for this Sandy River Board of Assessors.
Joanne Taylor, Sandy River.
And good evening, I'm Lisa Kinsman, resident of Sandy River Plantation and the third assessor.
Oh, nice.
Rod Varney, Sandy River, first to second.
Linda Casper, assessor to Dallas Plantation.
Linda Jones, first assessor. Patty Ellis, assessor, Dallas Plantation.
Jacob Boyer, the janitor.
Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, White, select board.
And I'm Ethan Schaefer. I'm the chair of the Rangeley Board of Select. Oh, got a pretty good turnout, Joe. This is good.
Yeah.
All right. Regional funding formula. Are you going to speak on this, Joe?
I'll talk about this, Mr. Chair. We're trying to share current formula with you. So what you have attached to your agenda or behind your agenda is something I found in our Z drive earlier today. That's our shared file here in the office. Talks about the regional funding formula. This is from 2005. It's really here for background. This is written on behalf of the Board of Selectmen here. I'm not sure. The Selectmen encourage all organizations that ask for funding from municipalities to utilize the attached formula. So currently what we use it for is fire and solid waste for Dallas, but it's fire for everybody else in the region. Dallas has a solid waste agreement with us. The unorganized territories have agreements with us, both in Oxford and Franklin. So there's a formula that we'll get into here in a little bit. This is the second page, but this was interesting. Number one, because it talks about, or it shows that in 2005, something that was talked about with group. And I think was written a little bit before that. This is 2005. And in this document, they're talking about other services. That kind of caught my attention. There are other services. So behind that is the 2005 formula. It looks like that. This is not current day. Although the current day formula looks exactly like this, the factors change. They go up or down based on valuation, population, housing units. So that's what I have for history on that. In one of the last quarterly meetings, there was a question about what's changed in this formula. The only thing that I found, I did the 20-year look back for that meeting. There was one thing that changed. It changed here administratively with us. 1 year, a few years ago, we left out the housing units because we weren't sure that it was accurate. And full disclosure, I didn't realize that this was something that was originally put together by this group at that time. So there was a de minimis effect by that, but it's back to having all three of these categories in it, as you see them. I'm trying to bring up on the screen what the current formula is. Most of you should have received your bills by now. Based on that, give me a moment. We'll see if I can get that. And feel free, Mr. Chair or others, to ask questions while I'm
I have a question. Sandy River did not receive a copy of the formula with their invoice for fire services.
Okay, we'll get you one. We'll send one to everybody if you didn't get one.
Did you get one now? We received an invoice. Request for a donation.
Linda, yes,
But did you get a copy of the funding formula with the invoice?
No.
Okay, can you get that to you?
Thank you.
Sure. I'm gonna show it to you here on the screen. If I can. Here.
We did introductions already, but Chris Farmer just walked in. He's on the comprehensive plan review committees. Sure, we'll hear from him later.
Okay, so on the screen, some of you can see it over there, some of you see it over here. This is the formula that your current invoices are based on. So
Can't read it.
if you look right behind you, there's a closer one.
Big one there.
So the criteria on the left,
Yeah.
criteria are across the top, state valuation, and this is, it's just a couple years behind, and that's by design, especially way. Housing units are from the most recent census, which is census, a year-round seasonal population, that's information that I believe also comes from the census. And those are the items that are in there. The biggest factor in this, as you can tell, there's the valuation was the biggest numbers. These are building valuations, so. And in the next section there, they're converted to percentages all the way on the right. You can see the average of those three categories come out to a percentage that is used to break down how the costs will be allocated. So Rangeley historically has been 48 to 53%-ish, my time here. And then in terms of plantation, it comes out about 14%. This is this year, 14%. Dallas, a little over 12, Sandy River, a little over 9, and the UT is right around 6 each. There's actually a comparison at the very bottom of the page there to last year. So last year, Rangeley covered a little bit less than we're at now. We're at 52.7 now. We're almost just under 52 last year. So you can see there's some moderate change or mild changes there. It's been pretty consistent. So that's it as far as an overview goes. On this page, this is the next page of the spreadsheet. Kind of shows the items that go into this. There's the budget for 25, reserve appropriation, hydrants, public PSB is public safety building, and that's the main building here next door, Station 1. Then there's a credit that's factored in. You can see the credit for all of those categories in parentheses below that. And at the bottom, it's all plugged into that formula there, and you see the total due on the right. So the reserve, all those expenses added up on the left, the credit from last year applied up to a subtotal. This is all by percentage based on the first page. Let me know if that's too fast. If you have questions.
So we're spending this with the
yes. This is for solid waste, which applies to Dallas. Similar framework there. That's just the.
I'm sorry. I notice we have a lot of. When I'm up at the dump lately, I've seen a lot of different folks and people there with that park. Do we track that somehow? Are they interviewing like when a lot of these contracts coming in, if they're tied to a location somewhere? Because that is really the only dump that's open most days a week. So if somebody's doing a project and
So in order to use the facility, you're required to have windows there. And the way you get that is you go to the transfer station and you state your name, and there's a list of eligible folks there, taxpayers.
But if they don't have a window sticker, then
Then they need to prove that they have a project that's within the area.
okay.
They need to provide proof to the folks.
So a copy of the building permit or
Yeah,
something.
that would work.
I'm just wondering, because I'm not trying to give anyone a hard time, but I rarely see somebody go up and look at a window sticker or those. Turn around. Yeah, I've never seen anyone turned around ever, and I've seen a lot of random things like this. I was just wondering, because, or do we have a way that some of these people that are working on this, they can be billed or something to offset some?
Is your question if folks are using it for outside of,
Yeah, is there a penalty? Do we penalize for that, or do we just turn them away, or?
well, it's not allowed by ordinance, so it has to be.
Well, there's ordinances and then there's enforceability. So I guess that's the question is, because I think, these are all costs that then get transferred over to plantations and the other people, and if we're not properly monitoring, I know that if you went to Sandy River to theirs, they're able to clearly check in that part, and I just know that gets pretty busy up there, and I just didn't know if there's the clear that. I think some people are probably also ignorant about that. They just go up there to dump. I don't think there's a clear.
So there's pretty clear understanding amongst people, staff who work for the town that, to use the facility, you need a window sticker, you need to provide some bona fide evidence that you have a right to use it in your contract and so forth. Second thing I would add to that, MSW, which is the bags of household waste that could compactor, we don't track that. Somebody theoretically, to your point, could throw that in there and there would be no fee assessed. Now, if somebody's trying to get rid of tires or OBW, those, we charge for those. You have to pay for those by the piece or by the yard. So in those instances, those are accounted for and paid for.
And like the large dumpster companies that are coming in and dumping on things, Casella, and are they paying any kind of fees?
There are no fees. However, the Board of Selectmen has talked about that in the last few months, and they've instructed me to work on a hauler's license arrangement and associated fees for the budget and for consideration of town meeting when they vote the budget next year. So that's something.
And I think Rod, you worked on that with you folks, right?
So to get Casella in town.
With tipping fees and some of the challenges from a previous vendor, right? So maybe you can provide some insight for Joe on that, because I know that seemed to be that's not always, seems really wishy-washy with that. There's a lot of volume of them.
It's been a topic of continued discussion at these two meetings we had. Casella and Archie's, the two that service up here that I know of, they came and sat and answered questions and we're going further into it. It's not put to bed, it's an ongoing.
Yeah, I just know Rod's done quite a bit of analysis.
I think the biggest thing for that is
guidance.
when you've got your household waste, the truck comes in, dumps the container, and then we were getting a tonnage bill, but they're not weighed. So there was no way to prove what it was. But what Casella did is Casella gave us a flat fee. So it didn't matter yardage, didn't matter tonnage, it's a flat fee per month to that actually worked out really well for savings.
That may help Rangeley and Dallas doing a similar thing. It's the reason I brought it up. Sorry to jump.
Can I do well, good point. I'd like to clarify. So is the truck bringing MSW into your facility and they're giving you a flat fee to dump it, or they're charging you a flat fee to remove it?
Flat fee.
Got it. Okay. It's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, what was the percentage saving? 50 something, 60% savings?
Yes.
Huge, David.
Yeah. Good. Well, because basically they couldn't justify the bill. I mean, they come in and dump. Archie's couldn't. They come in and dump it and they say, oh, you had 1.6 tons. How do you know? You're in the truck with 6 other business.
Right, yeah. I mean, a trash bag's kind of like the postal service, whatever those boxes you get if it fits and ships. Or you put something in a trash bag that weighs 200 pounds, if it'll take it, it's just the same size, so the flat fee does make sense.
Yeah, I worked out very good.
Do you, in Sandy River, do you have issues with, I assume you have many fewer users of the facility, but do you have issues over there? Folks who come in and don't belong, to Chris's question, do you have? any people
Probably, I mean, I think we have less issues, but obviously we have a lot less people. And we're open, very different hours, so, the typical is like, you've been in Rangeley long enough, most of the people. But, we get a lot of summer residents and, it's definitely, I don't think it's been abused.
They require a sticker too.
Yeah, and we require a sticker. Yes.
Alright.
But I think the other part of the point is, we also would not want our person to police that, because you're just asking for somebody for a conflict that,
Right.
Steve, not saying you couldn't write down, is it still, I mean, it used to be called theft of services, basically.
Yeah, I mean, my thought was not getting confrontations, we were getting fisticuffs there, but to just kind of document, such and such a vendor has been in several times, they don't have a permit, we send them a bill. They're billing the customer to remove the stuff from the job site, so.
And we did change our fees for the construction, basically on that dumpster, that was, we upped their fees because, like I said, contractors, they're making money. And we were trying to make it so it was affordable for residents to be able to do it. So we kind of do a little bit of sliding scale in a resident contract.
Good stuff.
If we could go back to the funding formula though for just a moment, and I do apologize that some of this may be my learning curve here, but, and I appreciate you providing the information, but this example here is 20 years old, so it's from 2005, as you acknowledged. But if I compare the data from 2005 to what you're presenting about here, I'm looking at the year-round and seasonal population, and using Rangeley as the example. 20 years ago, you had 1,568 for the year-round and seasonal population, and now you have 1,222. So have you actually had a migration out? I mean, is there, I understood that the area was, growing. There's more housing. So just wondering where the data is coming from and how it's validated.
So the data, the 1222 is from census. That's from the 2020 census. I don't know.
Pre-COVID.
Is
Pre-COVID.
I could speak to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to remember that just because there's more building going on here doesn't mean there's more people living here or even seasonally living here. Joanne, I see the look on your face. You can go through the Rangeley neighborhoods downtown, and you and I used to know everyone that lived in every house.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, no one lives in these houses. They're Airbnbs unless they want a weekend. So you're not going to get a census count on buildings that aren't occupied, and that may be where this difference falls.
Yeah, for instance, High Street, there's 12 houses, 6 of them are short-term rental. Or seasonal.
Okay.
Center Street's the same, so it's pretty much all the downtown houses we've seen. A lot.
Do you think it's also pre-COVID has a difference in the number of suits? I mean, obviously, after COVID, we started.
Yep.
Yeah, and our average household size dropped too. We've got a lot of this in the new comp plan. The breakdown, so we pulled the data, a lot of this data comes for us from the census via AvCog. That provides it, which is the same vehicle. So I think, that's part of the challenge with all this stuff. As long as we all try to use consistent source throughout there and those pieces, we can get that, but I can understand why it's a reasonable question. And I think if you look at the school population too, you can kind of see that a little bit as well, because that's dwindled a bit from what it was. We had a surge 30 the year of 2020, the year of COVID. We had a bunch of people move in full time for 1 year. And we had a 32 student increase,
Right.
and then it fell back off again by 22.
Oh, thank you.
Sure.
Correct.
But Mark's got one thing.
So on this population, and it's interconnected with the housing unit, I think the way these short-term rentals are nowadays, that you should assume that all the dwelling units have people living there most of the time, and I think you should take like the average people per household And then there's figures in the state of how much waste product the average household produces and use those. I don't see where valuation comes into play at all in how much trash gets produced.
Through the census, you mean?
For the funding formula,
Yeah.
for trash.
No, it's a good point.
What valuation got to do with it?
Right.
Yeah, if anything, it's kind of distorted with the state valuation.
Right, so I,
Proves your point.
in my thoughts about these funding formulas, I think you need a separate one for the transfer station and a separate one to the funding formula. And with the fire protection one, I think distance isn't in there. And the distance from the fire station is where your cost is, because it costs a lot more to drive down to Shelton Trail in Bemis than it does to service places right around the fire station in the Quasico Rangeley Village, and same thing going up to Saddleback. It costs more to get up there than it does to service the town. So somehow, I think the fire formula ought to have a mileage factor in there for like the farthest boundaries from there. And I had mentioned it, one example there is, because the valuation skews that stuff too, because over on the Ball Mountain Road, you got two people, someone built a $7 million house, someone next, couple places down, built a 10 million. So they're 17 million in valuation, but they're a mile from the fire station. So even though there's, pretty near 20 million in valuation, it's a lot cheaper to respond to a fire there than it is a $100,000 house down on Shelton Trail. And they gotta respond to them if there's an issue. So I think it needs some thought and some adjustments.
One of the things we outlined with the comp plan in this piece there is that we've asked, the fire department and some of the other agencies looked into, well, should we look at more regional services for those pieces? But what we've asked for is to do a cost benefit analysis, especially on the more remote stuff, so that we can do that. And we've mentioned that to the select board as well, that, if you're gonna take on McGalloway Plantation, Lincoln, some of these others, there should be kind of an analysis done of what it truly costs to go out with the whole crew 30 miles out in that black and make sure it's reflective of what they're paying into the funding formula, because those add up in those pieces. And I think I will say that in my years of dealing with the fire department, though, they are pretty good about it. When we dealt, Saddleback used to have a lot of fire smoke alarm things go off, and good communication can sometimes help mitigate resources so that you don't have a bunch of people flying up there if it's a false alarm. So, but those costs are hard to, the mileage part, I think, is an important thing to kind of look into, because, fire trucks, what are they, I've seen before, 20,000 miles on a fire truck, it's junk, usually how it comes back. So, I mean, those are the kind of things to keep in mind when you are gonna put so much mileage on that they consider those vehicles burn through miles pretty quick. So.
My question, Mr. Chair, was gonna be what Mark Beauregard asked, because I know that there have been, discussions about other factors. Do the folks in the room want to talk about other factors? Distance. You want to put a mill rate in there to multiply the valuation against. And how we set the mill rate, that would could decrease the effect of valuation on the formula, for instance. So those are a couple things that I can think of that would affect this formula. I don't know if there's any interest in it in the room, or folks are satisfied with it, if you want to explore it, or now's the time to kind of speak up on that. We can talk about it.
So we're going by the equation of 2020, not up to date with 2025 numbers.
So the census is done every 10 years. So the most recent one was 2020.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
but it's just completely changed now.
Oh, well,
Completely. I mean, those numbers aren't even close as far as housing units go. I'm not talking about the year-round seasonal. That's probably pretty same, but the housing units.
And we've had
like what you're talking about with just the dwellings and, you know, the short-term rental people who are still using, our, services. And I mean, that's just, really not adequate or, accurate number.
Would you like to use a different source?
I don't know. I mean, that's my point. I don't.
The
know
other
what
source
other
is the
source.
local source. And having to do, you know, kind of a dragnet locally, each community would have to do a deep search.
Well, I mean, Breck, our code officer knows year to year how many permits, how many structures were built, right?
Right.
And that would be a place to start.
Like, yeah, I mean, you can take, I mean, it's all public record, the tax rolls. You can load that tax roll into AI and say, please count up how many land buildings are on the tax rolls, and that would tell you housing units right there.
Mhm.
You can also run reports as a tree, which most of us use.
Yeah, if you guys have it in Trio that way, so. But I would think that would be, because I think Sam's right, because I mean,
And that's really, really.
whenever it was done in 2020,
Yeah.
that's probably in Rangeley alone, that's what,
Like-
400 units light.
I mean,
Yeah.
I can tell you from my occupation, how many new units have been built on public water. And we don't cover vast areas of the plantation, but we cover some of them. And
Was it
there's
28?
one year we had 50.
Yeah.
50 new.
Last year was 28, I think.
Yeah. Or one year we had 50 sales, change hand, wrong number. But anyways, we've added a lot of services just in public water, which hasn't happened over the years. Yeah, and it's a decent percentage for how many customers we have.
So, yeah, if it's possible to look in, you know, to get more accurate numbers.
Is it possible for the plantations to do that?
Easier.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I would think LUPC could provide
You
new
already do.
building starts,
Well,
right?
we have it in our property tax record as
Yeah.
well as in
We
our.
all
LUPC.
use the same software.
Yep.
Well, I think
Okay.
about. Right.
Oh, yeah, and somebody will need to communicate.
Yeah, we'll have to put I mean, if everyone in the
All of the units.
Well, couldn't you guys as a group stipulate and say we're gonna use everyone run the Trio report ending December 31st of the previous year, and that's what we use as the number? I think that would give you the most accurate, right? I think that's the fairest way to do it, right?
I mean, if we're looking at this and analyzing it right now, we might as well.
You can almost choose April first though, because Trio data is
True.
as of April first on the ground.
Well, it has to be, right? Because
Yeah.
every
They love
name
that
change,
deadline.
everything happens, so April,
April 1 is your deadline.
yeah, which I know, you know, cause I think that's gotta be skewed from what that.
I mean, just from 2022, I mean, it's already skewed. I mean, now I can only imagine. I mean, just from the COVID surge and just everything else, I'd be interested to see. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, you're not wrong.
Be interested to see.
All right, so what does the group see as the next step for that? Do you want to run that data individually, bring it back in the next quarter and evaluate it at that meeting?
To be the April 1st, 2025.
Yeah, we have to agree on a date. Is that, Linda, is that?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. And then, Joe, I guess we'll send out a request to Rangeley Plantation. Maybe even take a ride down there with the request.
Okay.
Explain what we talked about.
So are you gonna adjust a population as well, or are you just gonna adjust,
Well,
housing units?
well, we can't adjust population according to census because we won't have that information.
They do, and I can't remember what it's called, they do kind of an intermediary estimate, but you'd all have to agree on which one to use. Decide that you trusted it. They don't do a formal census, except for 10 years.
The American communities.
Yeah.
Right, but does the census, like, the amount of people really come into play when we're talking about
That's what,
fire and we're talking about trash? Why wouldn't just the housing unit be the overlying piece of it?
That's not what was agreed to by the four.
Correct, but what I'm saying is, does it take, worth taking a look at, because I'm sorry, I have little to no faith in the 2020 census, because most people probably didn't even open their door for it. And it's probably not that accurate. And when we're talking about these facilities, fire, solid waste, these type of things, I think those are more driven by the housing unit part.
Well,
But-
the census data is 10 years old. We just said that.
Yeah.
publicly. It's 10 years old.
Yeah, well, it's
We realize
5
can
now.
change in 10.
Yeah.
But that we wait on a 10-year-old figure
Right.
before we update it.
Right.
The census is only conducted
Right.
every 10 years.
Yep.
And the trio will give you an annual adjustment that would probably be more accurate, especially if there's big growths in other areas that, and those are the ones that are impacted by the fire and solid waste. 2 years.
Mark?
Back on the trash thing, I think what you mentioned earlier on the households, the state has figures on the average number of people in a household. So you just take your housing units and multiply it times that, and you'll have as close a guess at the population as you would by any other method, I think. And I think we should assume the way short-term rentals are in this area, that every dwelling is occupied.
Yeah, I think that's the only way to assume it. I mean, yeah.
Well, we're not gonna nail it to it,
But
No.
if you're,
but I think that would get us all in a
Mhm.
close ballpark.
but if you're multiplying every plantation by a housing unit number, then it's a moot point because it's the constant with all of them the same, so many per unit, so you can just stick with the housing unit number. Because it's not gonna matter if you multiply all those numbers by
Well,
2.2.
it says on the trash, because they tell you that the average person on the average household, you're right, maybe it all washes out.
Yeah, cause
But
housing
only
units,
one town
housing,
uses the trash.
right,
To Chris's point, you have a known factor with the number of units. As far as vacation rentals, when houses can be overcrowded, they're partying, not the same as people who are going to work every day and raising. So I don't know that the average trash generated by a housing unit for a full-time resident would be equivalent to someone who's here on vacation with their generations following them for.
but I think you can offset that by the 15-year average is about 29% occupancy rate on most
Right.
rentals.
Yeah,
So that's roughly 1/3, so I think that can offset that part, so we
If you
treated everyone the
want to use
same.
the minute, So you can, and we
Yeah.
can dive deep, but I don't
I
think
know.
we're ever gonna come up with an accurate number. If you wanna stick with the housing units, that's pretty fair.
Right,
I mean, that's up to you guys, but I just think from the data we pulled, it would help you.
it's a lot more useful than valuation.
Absolutely.
Yep, no, we're agreed on that.
Yeah.
It seems like. Oh, good discussion. Okay,
Want to move on next?
yep, everybody ready? All right, fire services coordination.
So Chief Bacon is not feeling well tonight. He's under the weather, so I have his presentation to go through with you. I am not an expert. I'm disclosing that now. So if there are questions that come up that I can't answer, I will email the answers out. Get that presentation. That's what's there. Yeah.
Yes.
fire service. Computer and still learn. Make it work. Okay, we're gonna talk about fire services coordination. Thank you to Chief McCann for putting this together. Here's a breakdown of the number of calls for the fire department and the percentage of calls in relation to the geographical areas. So you can see Rangeley is at 70%, UTs are at 6%, Sandy River is at 8%, Dallas Plantation 8%, Rangeley Plantation. So they're all roughly at about 8%.
Sir, that's year to date, 25.
This is for 2025, yep. And obviously in the left-hand column, you can see the actual number of calls. Rangeley is 379, Plantation 41, Dallas 42, 45 Sandy River, UT's about 35. So here's 2024, this is the previous year. Total year of 2024, so 65% were in Rangeley, 7% unorganized. Sandy River was 7%. Dallas was higher. Rangeley Plantation was higher in 24 than it has been so far this year. So you can kind of see, you know, the number of calls and you know where they come from. So you know, Rangeley, if you think back to the formula, Rangeley pays for about 52% of the service. 65% of the calls are here. So we're pointing that out.
So is this just fire-related calls, or is this all calls? Trees on wires, car accidents, you know, all that.
This is all hazards. This is all response.
Everything
Everything that the fire department would.
Yeah, I think it's worth
That's some trees.
talking about that for a moment. So when 911 calls and dispatches the fire department doesn't have discretion to say we're not responding to that. They respond to calls other than fire, right? So they're going to come to a car accident, they're going to come to a tree down. Those are all hazards that we respond to because we're required to 911 call. So yeah, they're not all house fires. There are all types of hazards that occur. So that gives kind of a picture of you know where the calls are coming from, being responded to. Here's a list of some of the items that we offer through our agreements with you. Courtesy life safety inspections. So these are things like walkthroughs for restaurants, other facilities like that. We check fire extinguishers, check smoke alarms, ANSI systems. Insurance reviews, those are typically done on a one-on-one basis. If somebody calls and said, "Hey, I'll work with my insurance company," the chief can help write a letter and you know, get a review done for you. He's had some of those recently with the ISO, which we'll talk about here momentarily. CPR training, they're able to put that together on request. So if there are folks in your community you want to have a CPR training, they can arrange that for you. Fire safety training, this happens at the school annually in October and other times, but they can do it. Fire department actually does it for the town staff. You know, all the Department of Labor require trainings for that, fire extinguisher, fire safety. But they will do it for folks in your community. So if you have employees at your plantations that need fire safety, you can help you coordinate or even show you what the Department of Labor standard is for that. Urban wildland interface reviews. So we recently had Kent Nelson and his crew, the board rangers came up. I don't know if we saw them around. They were doing hazard mitigation with blowdowns and other things that are in town. It's a successful program. It's intended to prevent forest fires in some of those areas where things have all blown together. So, you know, one of the things that the fire department is actively always thinking about is prevention, right? They know how to put fires out, but they're always thinking about how do we prevent them in the first place. And gateway for other assistance. An example of this would be if you have a FEMA event or a natural disaster in your town. Obviously, I believe you all have your own EMA people or emergency management folk locally, but if you need help working on grants or you need help with anything in an emergency, they can help as a gateway to get you what you need. Any questions on those?
Yeah, I do.
Mark?
On the Rangeley Fire Department, what they consider their coverage territory includes a whole bunch of the unorganized towns. And in the past, you know, county is responsible. The state is ultimately responsible for. That's why they had the Maine Forest Services to protect the forests and deal with fire suppression in these unorganized towns. You know, there was one in Eustis, and that was all that. Well, they kind of went away from it, and Rangeley's kind of absorbed that. And I think we shouldn't be building a fire department the size that is set up to cover all these acres that aren't really our responsibility. I think we need to find a way to give that responsibility back to the state and to the county and offer mutual aid when we can, but not be our goal to build a department and staff and equipment to cover, you know, umpteen hundreds of thousands of acres when it's not our responsibility. If we take care of Rangeley Plantation, Sandy River, and Dallas, and have a department for that, and cover it, I think that should be one of our goals, but it's not. It'd be a lot more efficient, a lot more manageable.
Well, I'm not gonna disagree that it would be nice if the state hadn't, pulled away the services they used to offer. If that happened,
The county with their tip up on Kibby, those wind farms and things, they get tons of money coming in every year, and they could use some of that money to rebuild, partner with the Maine Forest Service and take care of their own fire suppression.
I don't disagree that the county could give us all a better bang for their buck. Joe?
So if we take a look back at the previous slide, look at the UTs unorganized at the top, they're kind of purple, pink, by 6%. So 6% of the calls go there. Currently, I'm gonna try to find 24 here. It was 7% in 24. And I don't want to make you wait while I go back to the spreadsheet, but it seems to me that that's about half of what the cost breakdown. So we're getting more than that, more revenue from the UTs than we are actually expending in the percentage of calls. Now, I don't know dollar for dollar, but percentage wise, it makes sense.
But if you're building to provide that service, you're having more buildings, more equipment, more people, and all of that stuff. And so it's pretty hard to, and when you're out there, you're not available to the other areas because they're very remote. You're 30 miles away.
I think to your point, Mark, the unorganized percentage wise probably takes up, land mass wise, probably takes up plantation size.
It is a big area. In the event that Rangeley Fire is called away and is not right here close by, we do have mutual aid agreements. And it's unlikely that the entire Rangeley force is going to be 30 miles away all at once. That may happen, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's a possibility that something catastrophic that could happen. But in those events, the command staff are always letting their mutual aid partners know, hey, we're all going to cover the town, and they will come.
Yep.
So that ICS or NIMS, National Incident Management System, is all in place. And that is the benefit to having trained professional firefighters. They know that. They know the system, and it's the same system here as it is in Honolulu or in Austin, Texas. It's all the same. They all know.
Mhm.
So they're going to keep coming. And that's the way the system is built.
Do you know what the call volume was for Rangeley Fire last year?
2024, if you add up the left-hand column, that should be in the neighborhood. So 380, 430, 450, around 500, 512, something like that.
Put my glasses on, I can probably read that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This list of services includes a number of educational opportunities, which I was really impressed with. And one of the reasons why I asked that this be placed on the agenda is to initiate a conversation as to how we might be able to collectively leverage this expertise as it relates to fire safety, fire prevention. And many of these training programs, like the CPR training on request, fire safety training on request, wondering if there isn't an opportunity for us to collectively have, say, a Saturday program that's open to the community on fire prevention, on fire extinguishers. How many of us have fire extinguishers sitting in the corner and we don't even know if they're operational or heck, even how to operate them if they were? But to conduct the type of outreach where it's an open forum for the public. And I think there would be an impressive turnout, especially if you stage it so it's seasonal, like maybe in the early spring when people are getting into their cabins, and then also just before the winter season for those of us that are year round. And CPR falls into the same category in first aid training. Most of our community members could benefit from it.
I agree. I think that's a great idea. And I know Chief would be all over that. That's right up his alley. So I'll talk with him about it. See if it's something he wants to coordinate. Would there be interest? Also, I guess you don't have big staffs, but whatever staff you have in your respective offices, they're welcome to either come to that one or set one up here to do those trainings for them. If you need to, I know I mentioned that before. certainly the community element, then your in-house folks are also welcome. I'll talk with the chief about that, see if we can get something put together and share it with you.
Well, thank you.
Okay, next slide. This is where we start to touch on the ICS rating. So the easiest way for me to explain this, I'm not an expert, the easiest way to explain it is 100 is best score. So the closer you get to 100, the better you're doing. We've gone up from high 50s to 61.19 overall. And that correlates to the PPC value on the bottom, which is 0.44Y. That is something that is chief's expertise, but that's a better number than where we were at, which I think was in the 5. So the higher that number gets, the quote unquote worse you're getting. So it is a little bit confusing. But if you look at community risk points, these community risk reduction points are the things that we just talked about on the previous slide. All those community preventative workshops, the training, all of those things fall into this category. So 2.83 is where we're at. That's higher than the state. The 3 numbers on there are the national, state, and then local at the right. So we're both of those in all categories here.
Question?
Yeah.
The community risk reduction points, the request that the lady just asked for, would that if we held those classes, would that bring those points up, or is the points there because we have the ability to hold those classes?
Points are there based on what we're currently doing, and the training level is the
Staffing.
yeah, staffing and so forth.
Okay.
That's why those there. Now,
You have someone waiting to join the meeting. It's Tamara Benson.
oh, do you know that person?
Community Resilience
Oh, okay.
Partnership.
Thank you. Oh, we've had student volunteers in the past. Thank you for that. So anyway, as you go through water points, this has a lot to do with, accessibility of water. We have hydrants here in downtown. There are a handful in Wausau too, as I recall. There's been some discussion about the possibility of dry hydrants. I think that's something we probably should talk about here in a minute if there's any interest. But and I'll show you a kind of a map here in a minute that kind of shows the coverage area. Fire department points. This also has to do with staffing and the equipment level and all those other things. Emergency Communication Center, we don't have a lot of control over, but you can see that it's improved considerably. They've got some relatively new management there a few years ago, a couple years ago, and I think it's related to that. So overall, we're up. It's good news.
Sir, can I share something real quick?
Absolutely.
Respectfully. The better your ISO rating, the cheaper your homeowner's insurance, typically. So that's a good thing.
We're not there yet because the 4Y means you've got good protection, but you're 1,000 feet away from hydrants, so it doesn't add that much up yet.
We're alone.
And is this Rangeley, or does this include all the plantations?
Very
in
good
these numbers?
question. So if you see these two circles that kind of come together there in the middle, this is the area that is covered. And this is 5 miles from an established fire station. So the 2 points in the middle, station 1 is on the right, station 2, which is Aquasca, is on the left. So those 2 circles kind of overlap in the middle, as you can see, kind of the midtown area of Rangeley. And then if you get out, Saddleback is right here. You can see the elevation change. So this is about a mile away. So I think it's 700 feet outside of this. I don't believe it's 1,000. I think it's 700 feet, as I recall. Outside of this circle is your 4Y. I believe that's how that's. It's 7 actually. If it's 700 feet from the nearest hydrant, is where the.
Isn't
4Y
that what
comes
it
from.
says on the bottom?
Can you read it?
Yeah. Homes within 700 feet of a hydrant will be rated a 4.
I got a question in regards to Sandy River. Rangeley Water District doesn't have any hydrants for Sandy River, but Saddleback and the condos of Saddleback, there are several fire hydrants up there. Have they looked into, or does that already work for them? The lowering the insurance rates or helping their insurance rates because they have their own fire protection system up
It
there?
did prior to 2020, I can speak for now.
I don't know the answer to that, but
I don't think it's.
I think they tested the hydrants last year and there was no pressure.
No, well, I was up there not terribly long ago, and the kind of pressure they have will scare you. How much pressure they have.
Yeah, the water system has.
So they
200
fixed it.
Well, the water system always had 200 PSI. Look at a scar in my hand from
It's crazy.
turning on what is it was like a lot of that.
Oh,
Yeah, they have water, they have pressure reducers in almost every condo.
Maybe somebody shut it down. I don't know.
Yeah. But they did upgraded their system with it, and they increased the tank capacity.
Well, a lot of their fire protection comes from rock pond,
Correct.
so they get super pressure because it's so high up.
Rock pond's not hooked anymore. It's the fire, there's a fire pond just above the range.
Okay.
That's the one that provides the hydrant protection, but then they're also can tie into the water system, which has 4,000 or 5,000 gallon tanks, which they used to only run one, but now they put the other 2 or 3 online. And upgraded their pumps.
So they should have a better rating than what this depends.
Well, it depends. I mean, the 4 and the 4Y, I mean, my stuff shows 1,000, but that shows 700, but regardless, if you don't have a hydrant within 700 feet of you, and there's only one at South Branch, one by the lodge, and there's 2 up the hill on Rock Pond, but once you get above Rock Pond 47, there isn't another hydrant, I don't think. Maybe at Gray Fox is one, I can't remember, but it's not. So they're not gonna see it there. Their insurance is high because of low temp, not monitoring low temp and having some water damage.
All right.
That's what picked it.
Is the radius is what you're saying within the circle is the 4 inch? Is that what they're claiming? And then outside is the 4Y?
The circle's the 5 miles from the fire station. Right.
So it's just based on 5 miles from the station, not necessarily 5.
And anyone who's 700 feet further from a last hydrant is a 4Y.
Exactly.
That would be a.
So basically, yeah. A third of that circles.
But someone's looked at the ISO, I haven't seen a big change. I mean, I ask our insurance every year on just a 5 mile.
So I think this is a good
Miles.
point to talk about
I
the
don't know what the mileage. Sorry.
That's all
the
right.
dry hydrant topic. So I believe dry hydrants, in talking with the fire department, they qualify as hydrants. So if you're within 700 feet of those, that gets you a better rating. So and it's also operationally a lot, to Mark's point, it's quicker to have water. You know, a hydrant down here in the southern end of the circle than it is to shuttle all the way back downtown, fill up if you go to. So I think it's worth exploring.
What's a dry hydrant?
Oh, it's a PVC pipe that's at the ground level, accessible year round, that goes into a water source, goes down to the stream level. Yeah.
So instead of throwing the hose in the lake, there's a pipe that goes down to.
They connect directly to the pipe, it's threaded, yeah. And it goes below the freeze line because up here it's 7 months of the year, you can't just throw it in the lake.
Right.
You gotta pump under the ice, so.
And it's dry because they keep the water out of that area for the freeze.
Yeah, often on small bridges and things that cross waterways, you'll see them, there's a white pipe coming up with an elbow on it and a cap. And that's a dry hydrant so that they can refill the pumpers and stuff without having to come all the way back to town or put a hose in the lake.
So is that something that's on the table that the fire department is considering?
I think we'd like it, I think it would be the individual.
We've been
communities that-
talking about them in terms of our emergency management.
Go ahead.
That's why I asked for permission to talk from the board. So currently Sandy River Plantation is actively pursuing dry hydrants. And we're starting that conversation by having a conversation with the forest rangers. I have a meeting on December 2nd at 10 a.m. With the forest rangers. They're gonna come in, we're gonna look over the map and what it looks like and where it would be feasible to put dry hydrants, to talk about the high fire areas, et cetera. And that was driven by, when you give me a title, I kind of take it seriously and I run with it. So as the fire warden, the first thing I looked at was what made the most sense for Sandy River Plantation being so far out from all of the hydrant services and everything else. And dry hydrants kept coming up over and over again. So we drafted a forest fire management plan. We forwarded that to the forest rangers, and it has rolled into what's now going to become a at the table conversation where we talk about where our high fire areas are and where it makes sense to put the dry hydrants. And then there's all kinds of grant funding for the dry hydrants.
Well,
Very unpriced.
Tamara Benson has just joined and she's on the agenda of community resilience partnership, and their grants specifically cover situations like this. And you can partner with other plantations and towns to double your grant funding.
You can also get it from county level as well, because the county can get more money. So it has this trickle down effect.
We've been invested.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, would the group like to move our guest up and talk about grants now, since it's a good segue?
Sure.
Tamara? Hi, Tamara.
Welcome.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Was that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for putting me on the agenda today. I did go to the Dallas Plantation meeting last week, and the reason I went to their meeting is because Dallas Plantation is working with CB to enroll in the Community Resilience Partnership, which is a state program. I don't work for the state. I work for CB, the Center for an Ecology-Based Economy. We're an environmental nonprofit in Norway, Maine, but we are a service provider for this Community Resilience Partnership, which means that we receive funding from the state to help communities enroll in CRP. And when a community is enrolled, they become eligible for grant funding through the state. And so CB's been a service provider for as long as this program has existed. I started working at CB in May, and so so far CB has worked with and is going to be working with the total amount of communities that we have worked with and will be working with this cycle is 29. And that's mostly towns, but in this upcoming grant cycle, we will be working with 4 townships and 1 plantation, which is Dallas Plantation. And so, yeah, this grant is, like I said, through the state, and previously they had, the grant cycles had been more than 1 grant cycle per year. But as of now, they're going to be annual grant cycles. So, like I said, a community becomes eligible for grant funding once they're enrolled in CRP. And that's something that CB is funded to help communities do. And that's what we'll be doing with Dallas Plantation and the other 4 communities that we're working with in this cycle. Anyways, so more on the grants. There is a list of 96 actions that are eligible for no match grant funding through the Community Resilience Partnership. And they haven't announced the grant amount yet for this upcoming cycle, which the deadline for the next cycle will be in May. The last cycle, the amount was $75,000, and I'm guessing the amount will be similar this time, but we're still waiting to hear what the amount is, and they're planning to announce that in January, I believe. So stay tuned. And like I said, any community that is enrolled in CRP is eligible for that funding. I believe Rangeley is enrolled, but I would need to check to make sure. But I would be happy to do that right now. It wouldn't take very long. And yes, like somebody said earlier, there's also an option to do a combined grant application with 2 or more communities, and that actually increases the funding amount pretty significantly. If you want to do a collaborative grant, there's the funding increases to, well, $175,000 was the last cycle, but like I said, they haven't announced the amounts this time. I'm assuming it will be similar this time. And so if Dallas Plantation wanted to work with Rangeley or another community that's already enrolled in CRP and fund a project, a collaborative project, that would be totally possible, as long as both parties are interested, of course, and we're able to agree on a project or a set of projects that benefit both communities and could be funded through CRP. Yeah, I think I rambled a little bit. My brain's a little all over the place. It's been a long day. I've been in lots of meetings, but if there's any questions about the grant or the work that CV's doing, particularly with Dallas Plantation, I would be happy to answer any questions that people might have.
I'm gonna ask Dallas a question if I can. Do you have projects that you think you might apply for grants for? Any energy efficiency grants or anything like that?
Oh, we might have an energy audit, but there's also emergency management issues such as communications. When we're shut off from the rest of the world because the roads are out, we have no immediate access to that information. The fire departments do really well communicating with one another, but unless you're on Facebook, you're kind of out of luck. And we have a large senior population who doesn't have that available to them. And I know after the, what was it, 2023 storm, when the roads were washed out and we had meetings with Franklin County Emergency Management, that was one of the bigger topics of discussion. And we've heard nothing since about having some sort of emergency communications established in this area. And if we could do it initially locally on a more simplified basis, it would be helpful.
Linda, what do you think that would look like as far as you saying that unless you're on Facebook, so those folks that aren't on Facebook or maybe aren't computer literate, would that involve cold calls or
Could be
television?
I think Sandy River has a list, and you have an emergency, people just call.
I'm trying to think of how else you would.
Don't have.
Well, if you have a real emergency, you're probably not gonna have power.
Right.
So Facebook's not gonna do you a lot of good.
Right.
Well, I mean, it could be true. Besides, a lot of people do have backup generators up here. I mean, there's a lot of different nuances to it, but if the roads are washed out, let's say the phone lines worked, and within communities, you'd have to have volunteers or assign people to make cold calls or something, or at least if they have power, have the news stations get it out. And that's kind of always
We don't have
been that way with things, hasn't it? Like we had a main break last week for the water district, and it was on Channel 8, so people knew. So I don't know how well. I'm just trying to think of what it is that you would want to have in place, or what ideas you have.
We're open for suggestions. I mean, there are other communities who have systems in place, whether it be a phone call or someone actually goes to a residence, or someone who's more susceptible to whatever's going on, whether they're elderly, they don't have meals, they don't have meds, they don't have heat, they don't have water.
Yeah.
I know the fire department will do checks on people.
Yep.
We just learned of that. We're not even fully aware of what services are available. Chief Bacon's come once and it was an eye-opener. He gave us a list. We haven't had a lot of follow-up, but that is something that we've discussed over the past couple of years. There are emergency communication systems that are available.
Okay.
For purchase.
So, and I'm so sorry to direct this at them specifically, because I know that you guys have an emergency management plan and an emergency director, and emergency management director. Okay. So you have an adopted emergency management plan? Have you reached out to Franklin County EMA? Because they have reached out to me, because we're in the process of adopting. We haven't adopted our emergency management plan or hired an emergency management director. The guy I'm trying to talk into it is here tonight. That's why I yeah. I mean, we in Franklin County EMA said that they would put handhelds in our hands, but we would still be responsible for the chain of command. I mean, we'd still have to have our EMA director would be in touch with the focal, our department that responds to us is still going to have to be in direct communication with him. And then we have it set up so that we have other people designated for, there will be somebody at the office who will make calls, emails, do whatever has to be done from the central point of the town office, which will likely be me, because if the roads get washed out, I'll be the only one who can get there. Yeah. Because they won't be able to come the other way. So, I mean, we've had extensive conversations and assigned roles specifically within the emergency management plan. I mean, as with anything, and I know this goes without saying in this room and any other public room, you can only offer the information where you have ability to offer it. People have to go try and find it. They have to want to find the information. I mean, you can lay it out in 20 different and 20-mile stretch, and somebody's going to say, well, I didn't see it.
Yes.
They have to want the information. So as long as we all collectively get together and our emergency management director sit in the same room and have the conversation and say, this is what goes down. This is how everything plays out.
We've done all the training, we've gone.
And if Franklin County EMA can put handhelds in the smaller communities' hands without an extensive overhead cost, which is what I understand, I was directed by someone at county sheriffs to reach out to the Franklin County EMA. And
You're talking about handheld radios.
I will send it to, yes, because we need to be in the loop too. We need to be able to hear.
I just wanted to say it out loud in case somebody didn't know what a handheld was.
Thank you.
So,
We need to be able to hear
Joe?
actively what's going on the ground, because in the smaller communities, we don't know that.
Exactly.
And nobody from the larger hub is trickling that information to us.
Exactly.
So we need to make sure that our emergency management directors have access to the same service system and information system that the bigger community that we all rely on to respond has.
Yep. Joe, did you have something?
I wanted to point out that Tamara has her hand up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tamara?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that under the list of 96 community actions that are eligible for no match grant funding through CRP, there are quite a few opportunities for funding emergency management plans. And so if that's, expanding it or altering it, that's an option. You could fund a team of people to work on that. And so even if you don't have all of the answers right now as to what kind of emergency management plan you want to implement, the funding could go towards helping to make that plan, as well as the energy audit that you mentioned. Energy audits also are eligible for funding. So
Thank you.
All right.
Joe?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I wanted to let you know I've got Rangeley's application. Rangeley's been through this process actually twice. We did it once a few years ago. We recently re-enrolled. The first time we applied for some grant or a grant to get heat pumps for the highway garage. There was some level of skepticism about how they might perform up here. And the only time that they were a little weak was like in the really dead of February. But otherwise they've been really helpful, and have saved a lot of money in fuel. And they also provide cooling on the really hot days for folks who work in certain parts of the building. But in the new application, the re-enrollment, which has been approved by the board and submitted to the state, we identified 2 areas that could be improved in the short term. B4 is upgrading appliances in municipal buildings. It's a small one, I know, but every little bit helps. And then F8, which is develop a storm debris management plan. So that's a FEMA item, and it comes from my experience here with dealing with brush after windstorms. FEMA has gotten ultra concerned about cradle to grave tracking of their GPS coordinates, where it fell down,
That's
how much it was landed at the transfer station, where it ended up. So if it went to a facility, it would be buried and the license number. So they are that concerned about it. So there's grant money to help put one of those together so that when that happens, we can get reimbursed for all the effort. And why it's important is we go do all that cleanup and you miss one of those steps, you are unlikely to get the reimbursement from FEMA.
Okay.
So it's worth putting the work into it. And then just one other thing, what is important for your community to address long term is Rangeley's answer. Dark skies ordinance, workforce housing, transfer station upgrades to improve traffic flow and address leachate from the hopper. So those are things that have been approved by the Rangeley board, submitted to the state. And that is, it's on our website under the October 20th Board of Selectmen agenda if you want to look at application. We went through AvCog, did for us what Tamara is doing for Dallas, so it's very helpful to have a service provider. It's a little daunting without one, so.
Would you share that with us? I mean,
Yeah, well,
rather than us having to look for it, yeah. So we're kind of all on the same page for the region.
Happy to.
All right. Shall we move on? Did you have anything else, Tamara?
Nope, I can put my email in the chat though, in case anyone wants to reach out with questions. I would be happy to talk with anyone who has questions. So I'll do that before I leave. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Okay, we hopped around a little bit. I think we're on number 6, aren't we, Joe?
Yeah, we're going back up to number 6. This was the agenda item, I think it was requested by Sandy River. If I remember correctly, this was discussed a little bit here in Rangeley. Farmer went and visited Sandy River, really talked about it. So just a clarification of saddleback references in the comp plan. It is in there a couple dozen times or so.
You want to have Chris or Donna or Paul to speak?
Probably both of them could address that, I think.
I think, we went through and, Saddleback's mentioned several times because of its an economic lead in our economy in those pieces and a few other areas because of the transportation pieces. But the takeaway I got from meeting with the Sandy River assessors are when there's a meeting to discuss anything that would tie in with Rangeley with Saddleback, that they would like to be invited to that meeting and for those discussion points, and whether or not they choose to attend or not. And I'm guessing probably Dallas would have a similar interest because they have property that.
Kind of have to go through us to get there.
So we just wanted to clarify, and we apologize, is that when you're doing a comp plan, you're kind of looking. If you read through our plan, it's a lot of consider this, look at this, these type of things. So we're talking in broad strokes, and I think the important thing that we want to try to convey to the other plantations is that if there was any action to do, there would be a specific relation to that we would invite them to the table to discuss if there's a collaborative effort there, or if they're comfortable with us making arrangements. For instance, if there's a causal connection, we want to try to do something with a transportation piece with downtown. Over the past year, especially with the Saddleback House coming online last November, there are several students. Saddleback's worked with several of the J1 students that also get a job in town, and there's a shuttle that goes back and forth a couple times a day. Bring those said employees down so they can have the opportunity to work in 2 different businesses, increase their yield for the funding that they're trying to raise, so they can go back to their home countries with for schooling and that type of thing. And I think from at least the feedback I've gotten from the business owners that have collaborated on that, Rangeley and Sarge is more than provision there, that everyone says it's been a great relationship. So we apologize if anything in the plan gave the impression that we were trying to be a silo here. We're not. We're just trying to work on many different things. We do have a regional section that was outlined in there, but we haven't done any other than there was a discussion. I guess Don was at one of these meetings. So we're open to more discussion with that. Our goal was to if you look at the history of comp plans throughout the state, there's several. I worked on the one in Wyndham 100 years ago when I lived down there just after law school, and other places that everyone's great at getting their comp plan done and get it through the steps of the state. But when it comes time to actually implementing that, it seems to lose its speed, dies on the vine, whatever metaphor you wish to use. But luckily, we're fortunate here in Rangeley that our select board has taken the extra step and set up an implementation committee, of which a couple of us have already been appointed to, Mark and myself. And a couple more will hopefully be on there soon. I believe Etna from the ordinance review and Sam or whoever else decides to come from the select board. And a couple more citizens so that way we can try to start implementing some of these things. So as always, it's we do not want to operate in a vacuum. We want to operate in an open dialogue. So if there are concerns, comments, questions that pop up, please don't be afraid to either reach out through this meeting or directly to Joe, and he's in direct conduit with us, or any of us that you know that are on the board. We're glad to take direct feedback and bring it back to the group.
Chris, we appreciate the clarification and you taking the time to come to our Board of Assessors meeting, but especially on the assurance that we'll have a seat at the table for future Saddleback discussions. Thank you.
Yep, good.
In terms of the regional part, we were never approached or asked to be included in any of those discussions that affect the region.
Right.
Saddleback is in our region.
Yes, and our regional part in there was kind of what we were talking about. Like I said, with the comp plan, we're saying, consider this what we'd like. It's more of that region part, and maybe that's where some of the confusion happened, that we were, it's more kind of our thoughts as a group of Rangeley of where we would like to see some of the regional stuff possibly be looked at and go. And we had quite a bit of internal discussion, but we have not done that out from the part. As we do implementation, we're perfectly open to meeting with any of the groups, and we can let Donna clarify anything that I missed.
And we did go to a meeting back in June, and that was intended to explain what we were doing,
Yes.
and gather any information that that you had. One option that Joe and I had talked about today was maybe having on these quarterly meetings, having Matt or someone from Saddleback come and just give an update, what's going on, because, you know, for Rangeley, the economic impact of Saddleback on Rangeley is huge, just like it is for all the plantations also. And so, so we didn't want to ignore that, but we thought that maybe that might be a good option, is to just have that be a standing item on this agenda, this quarterly meeting agenda. And, you know, to talk about different options, or if there are any.
That would be great. Most welcome.
And that would also include Dallas too, because you're part of it, so.
Well, you can't do that quarterly meeting.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, we have a presentation.
Joanne, did you have more concerns? All right. Moving on. Joe, do you have announcements? Or is that, what, is that for?
That's for anybody that might have an announcement.
Yeah.
It's something that needs to be done. I don't have anything. You know, when you get to other business, we have to focus for a while. Thank you.
This is a long meeting.
There was folks here that I think have some other business behind you.
And Patty, thank you, Patty.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Banana bread.
Thank you. I feel bad.
I was well. Thank you so much.
Sam doesn't like your third one.
It is.
Wow.
Not that I noticed.
And there's nothing wrong with that, because if they were in that reach, I would have had 3 by now.
There's no announcements that I'm aware of.
Did any of the assessors or anyone from the other communities have any announcements or anything that you just wanted to bring forward?
Oh, sergeants gave us a presentation at our last meeting with the regional requests that they're making to hopefully achieve their budget for the 250. That's spectacular. And we'll look at funding that. Thank you. And I think they're gonna do a presentation for you all.
Sure.
And they kind of wanted our commitments going into it, so they know where they stand.
Mm-hmm.
It would be an additional 2,500 They're looking for 3,000 from each of the plantations. Sounds fantastic.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good show.
Yes,
I'm sure.
Are there plans for traffic control and?
Oh, that,
Yes.
have you had the presentation yet?
No.
I went to
They're
an
not
initial
scheduled to come see us till
presentation.
in December.
Yeah, apparently they've spoken to, game wardens, the fire marshals, police, sheriffs, the whole deal. So it is probably more developed than when they first presented.
We even got some input from Reggie about the eaglets and all those pieces, so we've adjusted the presentation based on that. So, because there was a problem that happened a few years ago, I think up in, I don't know where Reggie said, but there was some impact of something or somewhere, a couple of eaglets, so. But I believe it was a reach out from the SFCF to every group, right?
Stuart, I'm sorry.
To each plantation.
Yeah, we have one scheduled.
Yeah.
We have a meeting scheduled.
Dallas, I think, was the first one.
Yes.
So,
16, whatever Tuesday it is.
Yeah.
I think, sorry.
Okay. Do we have anything to announce, Sam or Jake?
No, sir.
I can think of. Okay.
Linda, did you have something?
What are the other business?
Oh.
Sure, ready?
Okay.
I am Linda Dexter, and David Miller is the executive director of the Rangeley Lakes Heritage Trust, for those of you who don't know us. I am currently working with the town of Rangeley on that dark sky ordinance that Joe mentioned a little bit ago. And in that vein, we are working on another project through the Heritage Trust, much larger than municipality. And it's going to be the Western Maine Dark Sky Reserve is what we have called it. It involves creating dark sky over the land, basically unorganized territories between here and Golden Border, the Canadian border. Franklin counties. So we're just here to brief you on this project, and we're in the process of working with LUPC, who has recently changed their lighting regulations in the unorganized territories to accommodate dark sky, to go along with dark sky, which is great. I mean, the state is getting more and more involved in making dark sky a priority. And let's see, there's a lot of conservation land in that whole territory. So we're thinking it's going to be a relatively easy lift to create dark sky, just because conservation land by its nature will have certain limits on what happens there. But this is going to be a long process, I'm sure, and we want to let you know what we've started. And at some point, we'll be looking for support via a letter or whatnot, because we are going to need municipal support for the project. Excuse me. So anyway, what did I leave out?
You're doing great.
Well, the Baltimore Station, the Border Customs crossing there, they're rebuilding their facility. They're putting up a huge new facility. And they've actually gone with dark sky lighting on their own. Well, we wrote letters.
There's a number of letters from
Yeah.
various communities, including us. And the feds adopted, which is
Yeah.
amazing.
We thought was awesome.
That is awesome. Yeah.
And also, we've been talking with the Mont Megantic National Park, which is also a dark sky Reserve. And they were designated dark sky in 2007. And that whole national park area, right over the border, for those of you that are where it's, you know, our neighbor in up near Colton Gore. So anyway, they've been doing this for years, and we've been having discussions with them about what we can do. You know, they've been telling us their experience basically. And so if we can do this, and what the Mont Megantic Reserve, I mean, that is a huge dark sky area that is truly an international dark sky reserve. I think it'll be fantastic. So anyway, if anybody that hasn't been up there, it's amazing. It's easy to get to. They have 2 observatories up there to go and look at stars, you know.
Like world-class observatory.
Yeah, and it's an incredible place.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we just wanted to let you know that we're working on this, and we've got a lot ahead of us, but we're gonna do it.
Now, do the plans include an observatory?
I'm sorry.
No, an
Oh,
observatory.
No.
No, our plans don't.
So not really, the end game wouldn't be to become
No,
another international dark sky reserve.
well, no,
Rather
this,
to complement.
this would become, because of the connection with Mont Megantic, it would become an international dark sky reserve. This becomes what it butts it, as Lena said.
Yeah.
Our goal is really just to preserve the part of the way of life in rural Maine, which is to have dark skies at night. I have routinely have conversations with community members who ask about dark skies and how important it is to them. So, and as Linda said, in some ways this will be an easy lift because there's not a lot of people in the unorganized territories. There's also not a lot of lighting, and a lot of lighting that is there can be grandfathered in, like all logging operations, et cetera, et cetera. So in some ways it's more of a bureaucratic exercise or administrative exercise to some extent, and political to get all your support lined up. Yeah.
Thank you. And last question is, what about time frame? Do you have a estimated?
Well, I think
Ideal time frame?
we're going slow to go fast. We really need to engage this broader community. So that's where we're at now. Linda, what do you think?
maybe a couple of years. This is not a fast moving project. It never is, because there's a lot of factors that have to be involved, and the municipal support, we've got, you know, the county commissioners, we have to get on board about this. The state, because it's mostly turf that's under LUPC jurisdiction, they're already there. I mean, there's some tweaks that have to be made, but they are behind it, and they've already changed a lot of their regulations. So, you know, it's but it's still gonna take a while.
A couple of years sounds pretty good.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah, it might be optimistic.
Chris?
Are you saying LUPC has something streamlined? I'm shocked by that.
They're under pressure from the community.
Oh, wow. I mean, that just seems so divergent from everything else.
Yeah, no, they
They're doing well right now.
They rewrote their regulations and they.
Oh, great. What?
Anyway. Yes.
So you're asking for support from the community to say, you're asking for support in getting the word out, you're asking for financial support.
We're,
Well, it's going to be great. No, it basically just, be on board with this happening.
So do you want a letter from the plantations, like saying
Well,
that,
it's
is that what you want?
Sure.
yeah, at some point.
Not tonight. It's not what we're here for tonight, but at some point.
It would
we
be nice to have a letter to send to everyone in the community as well as post it through social media.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Cause I've got no dark sky for neighbors.
Yeah.
It looks like a federal penitentiary.
That's kind of.
yeah.
And then we have second homeowners who leave their outside lights on all the time because they, I guess they don't wanna get robbed. But it's simple measures that people could take and follow and join in the effort. From your perspective would be helpful.
Yes, and about to form a group, Friends of Dark Sky. There's a lot of people that are interested in dark sky and don't quite know what to do. And what I need is kind of a local group to, I don't know, maybe do a few programs or, you know, like actually during earthquake, and during the solar eclipse, we had a lot of dark sky presentations. So we want to do more of that, more outreach, more education about what it means. So I'm trying to get a group together to do that.
And highlight those municipalities or those organizations, like even the Border Patrol.
Yeah.
Change their lighting.
Yeah,
And so putting that out there to help people understand how and what the effort has been so far.
Yeah.
And who has actually made changes to create a dark sky.
Yeah.
Have you, I know this is getting antiquated now, but have you thought about a TV ad? I know it costs money. But something with a short explanation that people can see over and over again to understand what the movement.
YouTube it.
Right.
Yeah, well, we haven't quite gotten there yet, but definitely ideas like that. Education is gonna be a big deal because there's a lot of misunderstanding about what it means to be dark sky.
Mhm.
People think you have to literally live in the dark, and you don't.
Yeah. Sometimes I do, Linda.
No. But anyway, go ahead, Chris.
What I wanted to say is that I know, it's a cousin of that is, and when I was in Portland in the nineties, they had a facade improvement. And they were trying to clean up a lot of Portland there, so they offered low interest loans to businesses who had a plan to do a facade improvement. It might be something to look at on the municipal, especially in Rangeley there, because not all businesses have that kind of cash to go and change all their lighting, that we offered a low interest loan facade improvement. It doesn't really cost you, actually getting a rate of return on your undesignated funds back in, and then you can get some of that stuff done. I believe Bar Harbor has that. Don't they have I think they have a dark sky ordinance or something.
Yeah, there's a few communities and there's some innovative programs out there to help business owners and even homeowners adjust their lighting, put shields on.
You might not think it's a lot, but when we had that great aurora borealis, it was one of the few nights I was out of town in Rangeley. And I looked on my camera at home for my bees and everything's green. So I was like, Jen, let's go look at it. We were in South Point. We had to drive all the way to north of Falmouth before we got out of the light pollution enough just to see it.
Correct, yeah.
So, I mean, luckily we don't have to do that here.
Linda, do the LUPC dark sky rules apply to Salva?
Well, you're under Saddleback.
Are they,
I mean,
do you know if they're?
LUPC.
I think the DPD allows around. So
I was just gonna say that.
the DPD is the special permit, so they're allowed around that. So probably there's snowmaking lights.
That being said, we have talked to them for the last few years and they have actually made some changes. And they're very interested in being part of this and maybe being a major part of this. So,
Yeah.
Because for one thing, astrotourism is a thing, especially since it's here in the surrounding country.
I think we saw that with the eclipse, right?
Yeah.
Oh, man, you're kidding.
20,000 cars in one day.
Yeah.
But, we still have a lot of work to do to pull people into the idea and to get changes made and maybe find some funds to help people make changes if they want to. But yeah, that's gonna be ongoing.
All right.
So,
Thank you.
anyway,
Thank you.
thank you
Thank you
for
both.
letting us speak.
Thank you.
All right, I guess we need to schedule another meeting down the road.
Was that April? Thought we were talking about April with the, having all the data and stats.
A little farther than a quarter, right?
Yeah, it's up to the group.
That's before then.
Can you?
February.
I don't know. People, when we're winding down, we'll get the segment.
It's just there.
Well, we need to. Roger, I'm.
Bethany, do you have an idea for a next meeting date?
The Sandy River Plantation Board of Assessors was just contemplating the size of our structure, as we have never hosted it, and they would love to.
Sure.
This might be very close together.
Everybody will sit closely.
That's all right.
We've had it, yeah.
No, that's all right. Just.
So now you're looking for your date.
Just let us know.
Yeah.
Is that what you want to do? You want me to take a look at the calendars tomorrow?
Yeah.
That's what we- that's what-
Okay. That's fine.
We don't have to say yes and then go, wait a minute.
So you'll send something to the town office and Joe will let us know. We have a meeting on Monday because last night's meeting postponed.
It's generally speaking, they're quarterly, so we're looking 3 months from now.
I think it depends on whether you want to look at the Creo data at that meeting, or if you just want to touch back in before, that, because you were gonna run the Creo data in April.
Right.
So if you want to push it into April, we might have those reports done if everybody can do that
Yes.
mid-April or something.
Would everybody like to wait till April, till the data's here, or? Linda?
Makes sense.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Productive.
We'll see you in the spring.
Yeah.
Wait at the phone
That's optimistic.
I just wanted to say, I thought this was a really good meeting. I thought a lot of good information was put out and, yeah, there was a lot of talking over each other. It was a great discussion. Yeah. I guess we are adjourned.